No, brother, I don't accept that. The Lord doesn't accept that. And by the way, your family's not going to accept that. I would move my family into a cardboard box before I destroyed my family culture. This is a values conversation. You don't value the right things enough. What am I supposed to do? Literally, whatever it freaking takes. Welcome to the Family Captain Podcast. I'm your host, I'm your coach, John Michael Clark. On this show, we help Christian husbands grow in family leadership and sex and marriage. So if you believe that Jesus is king, and you want to lead your family with strength and love, and you want frequency and freedom in your sex life, then you're in the right place. We're going to help you build an incredible family culture where God is glorified and your family is blessed by your strong, loving leadership.
Are you chewing?
What
are you
No, I was just... Could you hear my mouth noises?
Yeah, bro, I can hear your mouth.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. My mouth is shut.
Oh, gosh. Bro, ASMR, right?
Yeah, I don't understand that stuff. First time I came across it, I was like, is this like a fetish?
It is. It absolutely. And those
not a
shows
sexual thing.
are huge. You know, I don't know anymore.
I mean, it's like
what
people like rubbing paper and stuff, and
it works,
like,
man. I mean,
I'm gonna rub this velvet, and people are just like what? Who's watching this other than me right now being an
a
idiot?
lot of people do. You know, you've heard kids have had literal withdrawals from the show Coco Melon.
No.
So they have, because it's so exciting and there's so many colors and so much stuff going on. So like kids who stop watching it when they're really, really young are actually having withdrawals because it's like addicting, you know? But you got to think, with all the social media we have and stuff, sometimes our brain just wants that tiny little dopamine hit. So maybe that's what ASMR, I don't know. I'm not an expert.
I mean, people like cutting a lemon with the mic on it, and I'm like, bro, man, that ties into today's episode, dude.
Oh,
We're
doesn't it?
Gonna be like, hey, what are things guys waste time on? Be like, dude, we were laughing about this earlier. Guys, if you're watching people cut lemons and rub velvet, you need a bigger mission, my man.
That's right. Well, that's funny. Well, let's get started, man. Let's just roll into it. So, hey, welcome to the Family Captain. My name is Chris Farrell. I am your co-host. This is our guy and the Family Captain, John Michael Clark. The mission is to help men become the greatest men that their wives and kids have ever known. And that's what this content is centered around. And in particular, today's episode, we're diving into distractions, man. I mean, distractions, we are naming these things, and we're making sure that we are super intentional with finding a path forward. And that's your expertise, right, bro?
Absolutely. We always find a path forward. That's our special thing. There is something, there's a right, there's a best next step.
That's right, dude. Okay, so help me here, man. Let's just dive straight into this. Okay, we already gave him the little ASMR mouthpiece, right? So they should be comfortable and just ready to relax and tranquil. With that being said, let's start here, bro. Time, man. I mean, look, we all have the same amount of time, but we're not all using it wisely. You know, why is wasting time one of the biggest threats to family leadership?
Because it's communicating that you don't have something better to do. You really don't believe that you got something bigger and better to do. The thing Chris and I were laughing about a minute ago was like, I don't even know what ASMR stands for. Sensory.
Either.
You know, I don't know what the A word is.
Yeah,
sensory. Or who knows? But it's videos where people are like, listen to the velvet. Like they're like, and now I'm going to cut a lemon. And like, this stuff is mic'd and people are watching this. And I've come across this stuff. Sometimes the algorithm feeds me something like, something's like crinkling paper. And I'm like, what is happening? Who's watching this other than me right now? Like, why does this exist? So, yeah, we were saying, like, bro, if you're watching ASMR videos, buddy, yeah, you got more important things to do, man. You're a man on a mission.
Right.
Like,
that's right.
You're hot. You have a high calling. Give yourself over to it. You're either ignorant to it, which is okay. That's what we're here for. We want to open your eyes and help you see the vision for it. Or you're neglectful of it, which would be, worse, of course, because you're like, I see it, I know it, and I choose to not. But the stakes are high, so we got to give ourselves over to the good work God has called us to.
Yeah, dude. So you mentioned neglectful of it, and I got to think most dudes aren't feeling, I know I'm doing this, but I should do better, and I just don't want to. I think really what it comes down to from personal experience is you're just freaking exhausted, dude. Like you're freaking so tired. You have this high calling of leadership. You're carrying the burdens of your kids' behaviors and what's going on in your household and what is stressing your wife out and what's happening at work and all the things. You're just so tired. So why does exhaustion derail men?
Well, I think it's obvious. I mean, exhaustion is going to derail everybody anytime. But the good news is the mission actually is the fuel. And that's the thing that we haven't realized. And we talked about that before. Yeah, I got to clock in at work. I got to clock in at church. I got to clock in as a husband. I got to clock in as a father. It's this extraction mentality where everybody wants their piece of me. When do I get my me time? And that's not a captain's perspective. Even the perspective of the captain brings refreshment. Even the perspective of the captain brings excitement, because the more tending you do in the garden, the more fruit you receive. The more fruit you receive, the more nourishment you actually get. Your family is the fuel. Your family is wind in your sails, captain, as opposed to an anchor behind you. But whenever you're taking a minimalist approach to your family, to your marriage, to your kids, like, what are the minimums I need to do? I'm convinced it keeps you in a state of exhaustion and scarcity. I've only got so much to give. And what you'll find is you were built to do more, brother. You were built to carry the appropriate sized burden, not the one that crushes you and smashes you and grinds you into smithereens. But Jesus built you for strength. It's why you're stronger than your wife. It's why you're broader shoulders than your wife. There's a lot of things in your physical body that preach to all parts of your identity. Your physical body's important, but it also is preaching. The physical is communicating something about the spiritual and your role. So, yeah, I used to feel that same way. Like, I'm exhausted. Bro, if you're always exhausted, then there's just something else off. Like, what do your rhythms of Sabbath look like? I'd like to have that. Okay, well then we found an obvious point that we need to work on as a captain. It's not that you got to do better as a dad or do better as a father, but you got to do better taking care of my bro. You got to do better taking care of you. You need margin and rhythms of rest in your life. And if you thought that your 12 kids could all be in a sport and every night we're taking them to different places, like, I'll be the one to tell you that's super stupid and really impossible. It's a very new and modern idea to think that you can do all the things. Somebody's got to lose. Something's got to be cheated. There's a book years ago called Choosing to Cheat. I think it was by Andy Stanley, who...
Oh, really?
Not trying to promote Andy Stanley these days.
He's falling off the wagon a bit. Yeah.
Bro. Anyway, but in the book, he makes the argument, you got to cheat somebody. If you stay late at work, you're cheating your family. Sometimes you got to. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. But just be honest about the fact that you can't do everything all the time. Sometimes, you know what? You're going to stay with the family and you're going to do this thing. You're cheating work a little bit. That's fine, but you're a finite being and you have limitations. So, yeah, to take that rest, to take that nap, to take that day off from work, well, work's going to miss out. Yeah, and the Lord calls you to rest. Unless the Lord builds the house, those that labor in vain. It is vain for you to toil all day and stay up late into the night and to wake up early. Psalm 127, the Lord gives sleep to his beloved. So, like, bro, I'm all about grinding and getting to the next level. And also, show me your grind on your Sabbath. What's your Sabbath grind look like? And I mean, like, how good are you at actually bringing rest to yourself? So those two principles combined, the fact that the mission gives fuel. When you give yourself to the mission as a family captain, I was that guy. I was exhausted. Yeah. How can I become more responsible? That sounded like a heavy burden. And then I started walking and I'm like, I'm actually energized by the mission. This is dope. And also the Sabbath principle. Bro, if you're always empty, then I bet we could nitpick your Sabbath rhythms for your good and find some good fruit somewhere.
Yeah. So we talk about Sabbath rhythms, and I think that something a lot of guys fall into is we're like, okay, yeah, we're supposed to rest, but the rest becomes a distraction from now what our family needs. So what type of distractions do you see in guys that you work with that you have to help them overcome when it comes to, like, hey, it's the weekend, but I'm just not utilizing my time as well?
Yeah, it could be the weekend. It could even be the evening. So a lot of times when I'm talking to a potential client, I'm asking him, hey, run me through the 7 days in your household. Run me through, let me hear. And I'm learning a ton just from him saying, oh, Monday's kind of this. And I said, what time you get home from work? Or what's this? I'm like, I did this. And then what happens? And I kind of hear the rhythm, like massive insight for me to just understand a lot going on. And then same thing. I'm like, tell me about Saturday, tell me about Sunday. And it gives me a quick snapshot and a lot more. So yeah, all the typical ones, phones, just the doom scrolling, like just looking and seeing, are we going into World War III? I don't know. Keep scrolling on X a little bit. What's Putin up to? There's Netflix, there's football, there's your fantasy football team. Like like I'm an equal opportunity offender, guys. So whichever one hits you between the eyes, take it. Is anything wrong with any of these things, bro? I got no problem with you being on X. I got no problem with you watching something on Netflix. I got no problem with you having a fantasy football team. I got no problem with you playing video games. No problem with any of that, unless it's at the expense of your family, because those things are not genuinely restful. We've lied to ourselves and told ourselves that those things actually bring a lot of refreshment, and they don't. They do not bring refreshment unless they're in very small doses. And we go, cool, that's just a maintenance thing. But many Americans, many wives, many husbands go, this is my me time, okay? I know a lot of guys, their wives say that in the evenings. They're like, man, she's on her phone all the time. And I try and get her off her phone. And she's like, this is my me time. But the problem is she is actually not more rested when it's over with. We keep chasing the dopamine. We keep watching the next reel, and it never brings the thing that we were hoping it was going to bring. It's candy instead of nutrient. It's sugar. And we're going, it's brain candy, brain candy, brain candy, brain candy. And then after an hour and a half, we're like, I stayed up too late because I need to get ready for bed now. I kind of hate myself a little bit. I don't feel the refreshment and the rest compared to if we had had an hour and a half of sofa time as a husband and wife. No agenda, just boyfriend and girlfriend hanging out, seeing where it goes. Oh, baby, that reminds me of what I read in the Word this morning. This was so good. And now you're washing your wife with the water of the Word. Y'all pray together for a few minutes. You talk about something in the future. You laugh about something one of the kids did today. That was refreshment. But it's not the same thing, right? Candy is the promise of right now. You're going to feel good and you're going to like the taste compared to the meat and potatoes and the broccoli or the asparagus. And you're going like, yeah, it's not the same thing as the chocolate melting cake, but it's better. And it took more work, but it brought more nutrient. It brought more refreshment. So there's all kinds of things that guys get distracted with, but I just challenge them and I ask them, do you know your family the same way you know your fantasy football team? You can tell me about your team and all that stuff, but bro, you should be ashamed. Are you trying to put shame on us as a Christian? Yes, bro. Christians have a dumb understanding of shame. There is a healthy shame. Bro, if you beat your wife, should you feel ashamed? Well, I don't think a brother should feel ashamed. Okay, then you're an idiot. Of course you should feel ashamed for that. There's a healthy shame that leads to repentance is my point. Not a condemning shame that banishes you to hell forever. But if you don't know the spiritual climate of your home, if you don't know what's best and what's next for your wife, if you can't tell me what's best and what's next and what's best for each of your children individually, but you can tell me all about your fantasy football team, I call you to repentance, my brother. It's good news. Repentance, turn the 180 and go, you know what? I need to put first things first. So there's no limit of distractions, bro. We can always justify them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that has a lot to do with a family captain when you realize, like, we talked about alpha, beta in a recent episode, and I hear guys all the time, they're like, hey, you wanna come play cards? You wanna do this? Like, oh wait, let me ask my wife. And then they ask me something about, or I'll usually hit them the balls like, dude, why are you asking your wife? You should just know whether it's a good idea or not, right? And so ultimately, when we're giving them the authority for things that we should already know as the leader, and really what this kind of leads me to is seasons. So talk to me about seasons. You mentioned like, hey, these things are fine within balance. They're entertainment and whatever, God has allowed those things, but talk to me about seasons of maybe when guys should be more conscious in stepping away from these distractions.
Yeah, seasons is a great principle because there are different times and seasons for certain things. I was talking with a friend the other day. He feels really called to local government functions and activities. He's very gifted for it. He is involved in the community, but he's got the wisdom to recognize this just isn't the season. He's got the calling for it, the anointing for it, but but he would have to cheat the family and the household. It's not the season for that. He's got a 4-year-old, and I think his oldest is 12, 13, something like that. It's just not the right season, dude. You're going to have to cheat the family way too much. Not for like Friday night, but for an ongoing season with a lot of extra responsibility. Well, but I'm gifted for it. Yeah, bro, but this is your primary calling. This is your shore ministry. This household is the one that qualifies you for everything else, by the way. You want to change your county? You want to change your city? You want to change your community? Yeah, I do. And by the way, that's a good example of a bro who wants to get after it. He wants to make the kingdom come in his local government, and we applaud that. But it cannot come at the expense of the household. So, the same thing would apply for wives. Like, she's gifted. She could do this. She could do that. I didn't say she couldn't. I'm just saying it can't come at the expense of the household. And for her in particular, as the keeper of the home. But for you as well, brother, like, you should never be willing to sacrifice. I won't sacrifice my family for the world. I won't lose my family to gain the world or to gain anything. And yet, I've had more travel than I've ever had in the past couple months. So did I cheat? Yeah, I had to cheat the family a little bit. And yet, I made sure that the family was strong. I did that travel from a place of strength. And I'm also thankful that there's no more travel until February. So, but if I was doing, if I was getting requests every weekend, I'm going, no. Well, it's a great opportunity. You're changing people's lives. It's impacting the kingdom. Elijah Fain and Hudson and Brock and Natalie are also the kingdom work, and they come before everything and everybody else. I mean, I haven't even mentioned the church that I'm pastoring. So there's a lot of responsibility on me, but I've got to make sure I keep first things first, which is, my family. And then from there, I want to do things out of the overflow. Will seasons change? Yeah. When my boys are older, when they're up and out of the house, or they can, where there's only one in the house and he can always travel with me, or Natalie and him both can always travel with me. And sure, things can change, but we've got to have the patience to say it's not that season. We got to have the patience to say, you know what, this isn't my season for college football. And I don't just mean one season. I mean the next 5 years isn't my season for college football. Welcome to leadership, bro. Oh, man, that's quite a sacrifice. I know it feels like that at the moment, but that's only because you really haven't been tending the garden well, and you have no idea how dope it's going to be to see your children flourish under your shepherding care. There's going to be dope fruit that gives you way more than your college football team or your pro football team or your whatever team that you think brings you a lot of satisfaction. Here's the problem with that idol. It also ruins your Saturday if it doesn't go well. So is daddy impacted from 3 o'clock till 10 o'clock? Because, whatever, Oregon fumbled at the goal line, and the others, I don't know who Oregon's rival is, but their rival won. Like, oh no, I'm like, my whole life is impacted. My whole emotional life is impacted by what these, 20-somethings do with the inflated piece of pigskin, instead of, hey man, how did you shepherd? How did you captain? Yeah. I don't know if I ever answered your question.
No. I think you did, and you actually answered a couple of my future questions, because really the direction I was going with seasons is, I feel like culture tells us all these lies. So, for instance, from a career perspective, you mentioned you're traveling, but you have to keep that within balance, knowing that you can't cheat the family of your leadership. And I'm thinking of guys listening to this who are either in a high-level position where they have to travel a lot, and the money is good, but they're not necessarily experience a family that's thriving at home. And they know that, but they're also, hey, Lord, like 19% inflation. I mean, what am I going to do? Like, I can't get a different position. I can't go to a different job. It's taking me this long to get here. But there's someone who's like, yeah, I know my travel is cheating the family, and I know that my career and or my mentor is telling me, hey man, yeah, you just have to be in a massive season of unbalance when your kids are kids and miss it all for their good. What typically happens based on the guys that you've coached who've just been in the dumps?
Whenever I've talked with guys like that who it's super high demand, I talk with them right out of the gate and I say, hey brother, there's a better way to do this. Do you agree? And he goes, yeah, I know I'm not doing it the right way. And I say, well, we agree on that. And we together are going to find the solutions, because I'm not the Holy Spirit. So I don't have the perfect script. And I don't want to say, okay, put in your 2 weeks notice and let's trust God now. Like, we walk through all that together because the details matter, but the principles don't change. The principles apply to every guy, everywhere. Now, the only other thing I'll say about that when it comes to seasons is there are exceptional moments. I always think of this episode from Little House on the Prairie. I don't know if our audience is a big Little House on
I
the
watched that
Prairie.
all the time when I was a kid, dude.
So
I was
there was this,
homeschooled, so I watched it.
of course you did. So Paul has I think he was growing wheat, but a big hailstorm destroys it all. It was going to be a big harvest. It was going to be great. They were going to make good money. Things are just going to continue. A hailstorm destroys it all in one night. So now all of that resource and income that he was going to get is gone. And he and his best friend, they have to just travel. They just like hike for miles and miles and miles to some rock quarry. It's a suck fest of a season, but he's got to do what he's got to do to provide for his family. I've been in those seasons. I know you've been in those seasons, but you know that it's temporary and you know there's a light at the end of the tunnel instead of this is my career. Welcome to the next 20 years. No, brother, I don't accept that. The Lord doesn't accept that. And by the way, your family's not going to accept that. Well, they gotta. What else are you going to do? This is a values conversation. You don't value the right things enough. You don't value and you're not willing to prioritize. What am I supposed to do? Literally whatever it freaking takes. I would move my family into a cardboard box before I destroyed my family culture. So how strong are your values? How willing are you to make things happen, to provide for them, to protect them, and to lead them? Like, well, I mean, we really wanted this home, and we dreamed about it for years, and we prayed for it, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so drywall and driveway and swimming pool, like that's the value above the family culture and above daddy's sweet kisses at bedtime and daddy and mommy dancing in the kitchen. We'll give all that up because this neighborhood brings the status that we had always wanted. And we get to blame the Lord for it as well, which is really clever. Like, oh, we prayed for this and the Lord did it. Like, are you willing to downsize? Well, I don't know. And now, well, with interest rates, I don't even know if that's the right move. Like, get your be honest with yourself. I have no interest in arguing with you, but go take it to the Lord and really see what your values are. I think you already know what your values are. I think your life is telling you what your values are. So I tell the story about homeschooling. So whether or not you agree with homeschooling or disagree with homeschooling, I'm not willing. I don't want to have that fight with you right now, guys. You're wrong if you disagree with homeschooling.
Well, they can't answer, so.
Exactly. So I win.
Maybe in the comments. Actually, you know
Case
what? Comment
closed.
below, right?
Hey guys, comment below why you're wrong about how good homeschooling is. But anyway, we'd homeschooled for years, and Natalie was just fried. It had been a rough year. Lots of things had stacked up against her. But at the end of the school year, she came to me and said, the point I want to make here, guys, don't miss the forest for the trees, because some of you are about to get really offended and be like, that's crazy. Don't get stuck. Focus on the principle, and the principle is having values. But for me, homeschooling is a value. Well, I disagree with your value, John Michael. That's not the point. The point is I have a strong value. So the point is I'm not going to have anyone else raise my children, and that's how I view all of other forms of education. I think that's an extreme view. I'm fine with that, bro. You're still missing the point. Back to the point. I have a value that I'm unwilling to yield on. I'm unwilling to flex on. But Natalie came to me in the summer, and she's like, hey, I'm not homeschooling the boys next year. And I actually did a masterful job. There's plenty of times where I haven't led masterfully. This is one where I did a really good job. And I was like, hey, baby, I know it was a hard year. I know it was really difficult, but, this is super important. We're going to raise our children. Our kids are going to be home with us. They're going to be around their mama during the day, and they're going to be guided and discipled in the things that we want. And she's like, no, we're definitely going to put them in public school. And I was like, I need to be patient. So I was praying for my wife. And this was like over a 2-week period. We'd kind of revisit it. I wasn't being hard fast. I knew good and well there's no universe, not this one or an alternate universe, where my children would not be homeschooled. I know that. Why? I have that conviction. That's a value. Nothing will change that. What are you going to do? She said she won't homeschool them. I'm glad you asked. So we go through this. I'm gentle. I'm giving all the conversations. I'm saying, baby, we're going to make sure you got the right curriculum next year. All the things. Compassion, responsibility. I'm going real gentle on authority. I know that that's how it's going to work out. And finally, after about 2 weeks of back and forth gently, she goes, you're not hearing me. I am not homeschooling the boys. And I was like, she is definitive and set and certain. So I finally said, okay, baby. And she goes, all right, I'll call the school tomorrow and start getting them set up for the fall. I was like, no. No, baby, don't do that. They're not going to public school. She's like, you just said, okay. I was like, no, okay, you're not going to homeschool them. Obviously, I'm going to have to homeschool them. And she couldn't believe what I was saying. And it was not a bluff. It wasn't a trick. It was like, wow. She's like, that's ridiculous. And I said, I agree. I do think it's ridiculous. But Like I said, this is a value. Values don't change. Values don't yield. This is a value, so I can't flex it. I can't be like, well, Lord, this woman you gave me, welcome to captaining your ship, Captain. So I said, no, baby, I'm gonna. How are you gonna do that? I don't know. I have to figure it out. That's my responsibility because of the weight that I feel from the Lord. I've got to prioritize this thing. Jermichael, I think you're a psycho. I think that's crazy. That's fine, brother. I'm not interested in that conversation. The point is, that's what values look like. Do you really value your marriage? Do you really value your family culture? There's a right way to do it. Make sure you hear what I say and not what I'm not saying, guys. I didn't say, if you travel a lot for work, you have to quit. That's the only option. It's not what I said, because I don't believe that's always the case. But I'm saying there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. I don't know if it looks like really deliberate Zoom calls every day where daddy's involved and daddy's in the mix and daddy's not just Mr. Distant. I make the money. I'm the walking, talking ATM so you people can survive. But I'm still talking, how can you be an active shepherd? Well, it's impossible. Is this a rock quarry? Paul had to leave the farm? Temporary moment that we got to do what we got to do? I've been there. I understand it. It's exceptional and it's temporary and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Or are you like, this is my career. I worked hard to be here. I got all the degrees. I got more degrees than Fahrenheit. And, and this is our future and this is how it's going to be. You like that dad joke? You're welcome.
I mean, that was solid.
Show some love in the comments if you like the dad jokes. So that's the difference. What is your value? But your life is always telling me your values, dude. Oh, we really love the Lord. Oh, that's awesome, man. What church y'all go to? We're kind of in a weird season right now. Oh, okay. Here comes we haven't been to church in 10 years, and here's why story. Your words aren't the most important thing. Your life will reveal what really matters most to you. So seasons are real. We need wisdom to navigate those, but values will always show up. Your values are already showing up, for better or worse. But sometimes we just have to be honest and get deliberate with ourselves. The Family Captain is all about helping Christian husbands to build an incredible marriage and family culture. It's self-leadership, it's family leadership, it's sex and marriage, all made practical so husbands, wives, and children can enjoy God's best and truly thrive. It's one thing to believe that Christians should have the best marriages and sex lives. It's another thing to know how to make it all happen. But inside our Family Captain Elite coaching program, that's exactly what you're going to learn. In the Family Captain Elite, men are not only equipped with the conviction to act, but also with the wisdom to navigate their exact situations. And they get a clear, practical path to get them the incredible fruit that they're after. So if you want to take your marriage and family culture from just fine to incredible, then go to thefamilycaptain.com and book a free assessment call to see if the Family Captain Elite program really is a good fit for you. That's thefamilycaptain.com. Family leadership is a high calling for your life. So what are you waiting for?
Man, that story is awesome, especially the way that you handled that. Because, again, you said values don't change, and you were willing to step into the line of fire in this, even though you knew it would complicate the family. But you also knew in doing that, your wife would know that was a bad idea. That was going to distract you from provision.
And notice what I didn't do. Let's just do some quick teaching on authority. I didn't say, you will obey. Like, what's that going to do? She clearly isn't.
That's good.
So, this is where a lot of guys would lose frame. They would stop being the lighthouse. They'd be like, full panic instead of, you can't control her, but you better control you. And you're going to answer to Jesus. And I'm scared of Jesus. And I know I'm going to stand in front of him and I'm going to give an account. So for me, that meant I don't have an option. It didn't feel like an option. It didn't feel like alpha leadership moment. It felt like, what choice do I have? It was that obvious to me. I didn't think like, such swagger. What brilliance leadership. It just felt like, duh. That's how values feel. Mm-hmm. That's how values feel. Are you willing to downsize your family and move into a single wide trailer? And that way you can have all the other things. Well, I don't think that's necessary. I think I can. Fine, then do it. Do what you got to do. But there's a right way to do it. And if you're not experiencing the right way to do it, let's find it, brother. Let's find it. Get somebody involved in your life who can help you find the right path forward, because the Lord has a way for your family to thrive. I believe that there is a win-win. I do think life gets a vote. I do think sometimes hailstorms destroy the crops. I've been fired. I've been fired twice in my life, and I didn't like either time. But that also shaped me to go, I don't like other men controlling my schedule. I don't like other men controlling my paycheck. I think I'll do both of those from now on, please. So, but then again, there's seasons of suckfest, but
Yeah.
there's a purpose. It's building a foundation instead of like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
The passive man who inadvertently says to his family, this is as good as it gets for us. This is where we're at. It is what it is. And he's got a million reasons he can point to it. What do you want me to do? You wanted this house. That's just blaming her. And I'm not saying people have to give up their house all the time. I'm just saying, what's a house?
Yeah.
What's a neighborhood? What's a car?
Yeah.
You want us to downsize to one vehicle?
You know,
Bro, who cares about a vehicle, man?
dude.
When we're thinking about our children's souls.
Yeah.
Dude, I will take dancing in the kitchen with my dream girl who loves me and is happy to see me. And when I walk in the room, her shoulders relax and she goes, there he is. Bro, I'm richer than the richest men in the world. And I would not take all of their money for all of their divorces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I have it all.
It's so interesting that you say that too, because I feel like in those seasons when you put that stuff in front of God, and you're like, Lord, if I'm missing something in my family leadership, show me. Because I've prayed those prayers, man, and it's resulted in, I'll give you a quick story. I owned a fitness studio for 4 years, from 2015 to 2019. And
Hot yoga?
Hot yoga, yeah. Group fitness and personal training.
Hot yoga, men only.
So, right. So I was waking up at 3:45 a.m. I wouldn't get home till 8 p.m. Right? I had 3 little girls at home. I remember one day, one of my clients' sessions canceled and the next one canceled. And I was like, oh, this is great. I'll go home and surprise the kids. I think my oldest was like 3 at the time. And I walked in the door and my wife was in the kitchen cooking lunch. And my little girl was like, Daddy, like, mommy, Daddy came to visit. Like, she didn't even freaking know I lived there. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what did she just say? You know what I mean? And if you'd asked me up to that point, just like the perfect answer, what do you value? I'd have said, well, yeah, time with my family.
Yeah.
But it was not congruent at all. And dude, I will never forget that.
Dang. That is nuts. That is a gut punch, a ball kick, a stab. That's everything.
Yeah, yeah. And it just seems like when we pray about those things, man, God answers in so many ways, so many, in most miraculous fashion, if we lay it out there. Because there have been seasons of my life where I'm just, yeah, like I think things are going good, but then I'm like, hey God, what am I missing? You know what I mean? Like, search my heart, what am I missing? And he always shows me something, and I'm like, dang, oh, I was missing that. Like, that's a big deal. And then pretty drastic changes happen. But to your point about values, they can't change. What comes out of my mouth has to be congruent with my actions and what's happening in my family. So with that being said, on a distractions level, you know, because we've gotten some fantastic conversation about values, but this definitely applies to the distractions. We speak to 100 men who are Christian men. We say, what do you value? They say, well, I value my relationship with Jesus Christ. I value my family. And I value, what else? You know, contribution. Okay, cool. But I don't see any of it. I got my bro, if I'm working backwards, who's afraid to tithe. I got my bro who is spending too much time on work and distractions. And then like my guy who's like, yeah, I don't really have time to get in the Bible this season. So help me with this guy listening to this who's like, daggone it, you just pinned me. I am distracted. And what do you do? What do you do with this individual?
I mean, first of all, I just test his desire, and I just ask him. So I'm asking you, brothers, listening right now. Some of you, unfortunately, I think it's likely that some guys are just offended, and they're like, those two don't get it. Like, they haven't lived, they don't know my situation, which is what we're all tempted towards. Like, I've got a unique thing going. So with that, brother, all I can say
we
is,
could
man,
certainly qualify, but go ahead.
I would just say to that guy, like, okay, well, you know what? Keep doing what you're doing and keep getting what you're getting. You know, that when you're ready to have an honest conversation about that, then yeah, we're here to. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Have I become your enemy? You know, because I'm telling you the truth now. But for the guy who's sincere, he's like, okay, guys, man, this is really convicting me. I would just start to say, bro, clarify your values. Really be precise. Well, my family. Oh, what does that mean? Well, I want to do this. I want to do that. What excites you? When's the last time you wrote some of that down? For all the structure, for all the order you have in your business and in your work, do you have 1% of that for your family and household? Or are you just kind of phoning it in still? Is it mailing it in or phoning it in? Never understood that figure of speech.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. It just means you're just doing it halfway. Or emailing it in even. Who knows? Maybe you're just
Easy,
tweeting
low
it.
resistance.
You're Xing it in. But for that brother, I would just start to say, you got to just start analyzing and just find something. What is the very first best next step you can take? How can you start to step into that in a way that's going to put your money where your mouth is?
Yeah.
So that you really can say, if I was being charged with loving God, loving the local church, being an adoring husband and a present father, would there be enough evidence to convict me? And build the case against yourself or for yourself. What evidence is there of those things? Well, I do this, bro. Are those just like basic minimums? Or are those like, that dude's an absolute stud? Dude's an absolute, like, that dude is like leading that family. He loves that girl. He loves those kids. And he is just deliberate, intentional, wise in the way that he's shepherding them. I can't give you the script for your household. You got a different season. You got different kids. I mean, that's where we have to just come back to principles. But that's what I would encourage that brother towards. And then you're going to find you are going to have some big rocks to move. There are going to be some legitimate challenges where you're going to go, that's a heavy lift. I can't control her. No, you can't. So what are you going to do? By the way, in the homeschool story, Natalie came back, I think within a week, and she was repentant. And of course, I was gracious. Hey, baby, I got you. It's going to be a great school year. And we've never not homeschooled. And she homeschooled, wonderfully that next year. And she was exhausted. She was drained. And I had to recognize that. But I was totally ready to step up and get home from work and homeschool my kids in the evening. That was going to be a suck fest.
Yeah.
But I left room for the Holy Spirit, and he moved in her heart, and she's a godly woman and loves the Lord, and all is well, and all was well.
Yeah.
So it's gonna require some hard stuff, but dude, I'm all about that fruit. I'm all about those results. I am thankful, but I'm just not satisfied.
Yeah.
And I'm always seeking, like, Lord, what's best? What's next? How do we keep growing? How do we please you more? Not from a place of panic or fear or worry. It really is from a place of just delight. This is fun. There's nothing more fun than ruling well.
Yeah. Let me ask you personally. So you're a human being. You have a family. You have a business. You have to be active on social media. What things distract you most, and what boundaries do you set around those?
The biggest distractions for me are social media.
Okay.
I'm working on social media. That's where a lot of my work is happening. A lot of things take place there. So I'm susceptible just like anybody else, like real. A barrier I have in place, all of my social media apps I've got an app that lays over all of it. And every 7 minutes, it boots me out of the app. So if I ever get into...
What's the app?
Screens In.
Screens In. Okay.
Screens In is what I use.
Okay.
ZEN. So on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. I don't spend any time on TikTok because I don't even understand how it works. So our stuff's on TikTok, but I don't know how to do it. It's so confusing. You can't even back out of the app. You keep pushing the back button. It just takes you to other reels.
I don't have the app on my phone.
I'm like, what's going on? Yeah, China knows all about me.
Yeah.
But anyway, Screens In helps me, and it kicks me off after 7 minutes. So it's really annoying because a lot of times I am working. Most of the time I'm working, so that I get kicked out when I'm in the middle of something.
Right.
But it's worth it for the times when I'm like, real. I can only do that for 7 minutes before Screens In pops up, and you can put whatever message you want on there. So you can be like, hey, stop being an idiot. You can be like, hey, get back to work. You can be like, hey, manage your time. You can make it say whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's super helpful to me. That's really my biggest, only, I suppose, distraction, because I just have too much I'm responsible for. I just got too much to do. I've got a church. I've got a flock that I'm shepherding, and those needs are massive. I've got clients, and those needs are massive. And I've got a family, and those needs are massive. And, that hasn't even referenced like the businessy side of the business. My clients, I love blessing and working with them. My flock, I love blessing and working with them. My family, I love blessing and working with them. But the businessy side of the business, like all the business owners know, like that's endless. You could
Yeah.
always find more to do today. You could always do something better. You could always do something bigger. So that's the main thing that I'm tempted towards. Like sports. I used to be bigger into football. Not so much anymore. It helps that the Panthers are absolute garbage. So even my Sunday afternoon, but even when I was big into
Yeah.
that, like me being big into that was just watching the Panthers game on Sunday and nothing more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my boys would sit there and watch it with me. So it wasn't a daddy stealing from them time. But yeah, and I take off on Mondays. Monday is my day off. So as a pastor, Sunday isn't exactly like a day off. I'm still worshiping with the saints, but it's not the same thing as when I'm just a part of a body like that.
Mhm.
So Monday is my day off, and I challenge everybody, man, you need to have a legit day off and then do the things that refresh you. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to touch something in your garage. I don't have super, super strict rules around Sabbath. Apart from my super, super strict rule is if it is work, then don't do it. And if it's refreshing, then you can do it. A lot of guys who are hard charging, they panic. They're like, so am I just supposed to lay in a hammock all day? No, bro. Like for me, I allow myself, and I'm sure brothers would disagree with this, but like if I want to push mow the yard, we got a small yard. But if I feel like push mowing the yard, like on Monday, I can do that. That's totally refreshing for me. Versus the landscaper who like he don't need to be messing in his yard probably on his day off.
Right.
But for me, I don't need to be messing on social media on Monday. I don't need to be emailing on Monday. I don't need to be doing a lot of different things on Monday. But I can go to the gym. I can work out. There's all kinds of stuff I can do on Monday, but it needs to be refreshing, and I need to keep that rhythm. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that gets people the most is the phone, is the scrolling, is, oh, what's the newest story or sports stat or whatever. And then I think people are getting off of work calls. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the book, Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti. I use it all the time on my wife. I'm like, look, babe, I'm just in my one box. I can't shift fast enough, which is hilarious, but yes. And so I'm thinking of all this stuff. And then my wife's like knocking on my door, like, hey, are you done at 6:00? Then I come out and I still haven't released everything. I'm still just glazing off, thinking like, ooh, wait, JM asked me to do this, or I have to do this, or you know what I mean? I'm thinking of all those things all the time. And
It sounds like
so,
spaghetti to me.
yeah, right. well, so the premise
That's
of
how
the
I feel. Like
well,
it's hard. I sit
yeah,
at the dinner table and I've got Salt Church and I've got Family Captain and I've got this client, I've got that. Man, I've got like 17 things and I
yeah,
have to discipline my mind and to go, it will be there tomorrow.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now be daddy. Sorry I interrupted.
No, you're good. But the box thing is like, I'm in my work box. I'm in my provision box. That's the box I'm in. And so my kids are asking me questions, or my wife's telling me like, hey, what do you want for dinner? What should we get? I'm just like, I don't care. I don't know. I don't care. Right. Just, I'm here right now. And so the struggle is I'm constantly coming back in my office and being like, okay, put your phone down, be present with your kids. How do you figure that out? I still don't do that well. I've created boundaries for myself, but there's so much going on all the time that as an entrepreneur, I would not say I'm as present with my children. That's a flaw of mine. They know that I'm not like my oldest will be like, yeah, Dad's not paying attention. Stop talking to him, which is awful. It's awful, but I'm still struggling with it. So what would you say to a guy like me who is literally not present?
I mean, I've dealt with this continually. I will find myself in loops, especially over the past 4 years since I've planted the church and started the Family Captain. I find myself doing well and then doing poorly and doing well and doing poorly. And I have to keep coming back to setting the old boundary that I started violating. So for me, it's a work stop time. And I mean, I've got coaches for everything. I've got a fitness coach. I've got a business coach. I've got all kinds of things. Like I put my money where my mouth is, and I need that other accountability. I need that other help, and people to plan, and we need a team. The more responsibilities you have, the more people that the Lord is going to bring around you. Not just people that you have to pay,
Yeah.
but I'm certainly willing to pay. I pay a lot of people for a lot of things, and I don't begrudge any of it. I'm going, yep, this is all helping me to multiply. These people add to me. These people multiply me. So just trying to do everything alone, I think, can be really difficult. But I'm quick. I'm quick to bring somebody else into my world. I'm quick to empower others. And that's one of the things that has served me well as a business owner is saying, all right, this is my cutoff time. And then one of my coaches, he's going, all right, how'd you do this week with shutdown time? And I'm like, well, I didn't. I left the office at this time. Because I would be right here until somebody would come to the door and say, dinner's ready.
That's how I am.
And then I'd be like, okay. And then I'm still like piddling, and washing hands and sitting down at the table as they've been like waiting for 30 seconds, like waiting for daddy so that they can pray. And I'm like, yeah, I still got everything running through my head, all the things I've been doing all day. But it has been a massive shift for me to actually knock off and say, this is my end time. And then I leave my phone in the bedroom and I leave the office and I go lay on the sofa. And, my youngest will come snuggle me, or I'll go hug up on my wife in the kitchen as she's preparing dinner. And daddy's just like 45 minutes decompressing, but I'm with the family. And I'm not doing anything. Like it's been a massive thing. And that's even just been the past couple months. But my pattern has been I'll violate it again. And then I have to go, oh, I'm slipping. And I have to refresh the target and do it all over again. So I don't have mastery over that, but I'm still honest enough to say what the bullseye is.
Yeah.
I'm still honest enough to say, there's the target. I missed it. Okay. I don't get into condemnation, but I do get into correction over and over and over. And I'm going to keep correcting, and I'm going to keep bringing in tools and resources and apps and whoever I can, because we're supposed to have this load. Men are built for it. I heard Michael Foster say one time, men are like trucks, and they do better. Like they were designed to carry load in the bed. Like trucks, if you look at them, they're slightly tilted forward. It's when the load comes in. That's what a truck is built for. And men are the same way. We drive straighter. It's actually better control. I've always said it's like the burden of the Lord for men is like a backpack that fits right. It's just the right amount of weight. It actually feels good to have it on. It's not heavy. You're like, oh, this is going to be exhausting. But it's like, kind of feels good. Kind of feels right. That's what masculinity is like. And the more you grow as a man, the more weight you're carrying. You look at a productive man, like he's got a ton on him. And what's the quote they say about men? Like, if you need something done, ask a busy man to do it.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's going to get it done. Because he's a responsible guy who knows how to prioritize and execute on things, and he's been faithful. Don't ask the guy with all kinds of time on his hand. Might not be a man of integrity. Might be a lazy man. Why does he have all kinds of time on his hand? Because he's built his life really wisely? Okay, good for him. But if that's true, he's also wanting to expand and multiply in other places.
Yeah.
So I just say, keep growing. Imperfect action is how you win. For you, Chris, for me, for other entrepreneurs, for other business owners, whatever. Keep experimenting, man. Find what works. Talk to your girl. Hey, babe, I'm making some shifts. I would like for you to tell me, how you feel about this change. I'm not putting pressure on her to lead me, but I'm involving her. I want my first officer's wisdom and input. I want to know how she's feeling and how she's processing these things. And I'm just willing to keep experimenting. Another iteration. That's not really working. Fine. Change it up. It's okay. You're the captain here. You're just trying to figure out what works and what flows in this time in the season.
Yeah. Dude, powerful stuff. I do have one more question as we conclude this episode. You mentioned you're working, you're busy, you get to knock on the door, dinner's ready, and it seems like you are joyful about walking through that office door and spending time with your family. But there are guys listening to this, and working late is not only I have things to get done, but there's a bit of escapism involved in that. So talk to me about the brother who is like, just have things to do because he's escaping.
Yeah, I think escapism is part of it. And also, we get satisfaction from work and accomplishment.
Sure.
So that's a big thing. We've all seen guys hide at work because, bro, you're crushing it. You get admiration there, you have mastery there, you have skill there, but you don't have it in the household. So I give myself, and I've seen wives do this too. Like, my wife doesn't want to be a homemaker. My wife doesn't want to prioritize this because, well, she's getting something over there that she's not getting here. And the same's true for you, bro. You're getting respect. You're getting admiration. You're getting accomplishment. Whereas over here, it just feels like suckfest and challenge, and I don't know how to fix anything. So that's what leads to the escapism or even the success. And you can always be like, look, I'm just doing a good job. That's why I'm doing it. When really, of course, we always come back and say, bro, but this is your primary calling. This is the thing you've got to ace before you go ace everything else. And I know that's overwhelming for guys. Like, well, how am I supposed to do that? Well, if only there was a program out there who could help me to lead my family and get
Look
me
at
the
that.
practical, give the mentorship and the brotherhood and the practical step-by-steps to do all these things. Like, that's, we can't coach on a podcast because we can give principles, but what about my circumstance? I know, it's a great question. I love all the books on my bookshelf, but every time I read a great book, I'm like, I wish I could ask the author about my particular thing. Well, yeah, that's the power of coaching, and you can get into the weeds and say, okay, here's where wisdom applies that for you practically. So yeah, I get it. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think for some guys, it's overwhelming when they hear the message of the family captain because they're like, that's a whole world. I knew business was a whole world. I knew the church was a whole wide world. I thought the family was just kind of like, I love her, she loves me, we're all going to heaven when we die. No, bro. That's way small. That's way small. That's like a low bar. It's a good bar, but it's the low bar. There's a whole big world here. Good news, it's freaking dope. It will be wind in your sails, not the anchor on the ship. So, yeah,
True.
that's what we're here to do, man. If you're feeling like that, if you're feeling overwhelmed and stuck, or I'm escaping this, or I'm escaping that, and I don't know where to begin, like, bro, you're there. Like, welcome to the family captain. Like, if you're looking for some actual, real personal support, that's what Family Captain Elite is all about.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll find more information about that below, guys, in the description of this video. Again, please, hey, let us know what you think of this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the show. We've got to continue to push this show forward. I mean, the reason that we are weak in this culture is because of family leadership and the lack of it. And so we're here to solve that problem, right? And so JM, my man, thank you, and we'll look forward to the next episode.
You're welcome. Love you, brothers. Go captain your ship. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Family Captain Podcast. Now go take some action and serve by leading well. Also subscribe, leave a review so more men can find the podcast and be helped. And if you're ready to take your growth to the next level and you'd like more support, check out thefamilycaptain.com for our resources that'll help you accelerate your journey. And until next time, go captain your ship.